YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Have a good time, fellas. Thanks, sir. I will see you again. We'll celebrate this weekend. Be safe. Be safe, ma'am.
So let's go have something to eat. You're going to like the hamburgers? Would you rather have hamburgers from the White House or pizzas from a good place, huh? I think you want, they want the hamburgers. Have a good time, everybody. We've had some incredible results. The results have come out, and it's like a different place. It's like a different city. It's the capital. It's going to be the best in the world. We're going to do what you're doing with law enforcement, and very importantly also, we're going to physically do it. We're going back to Congress for some money, and we're going to redo a lot of the pavement, a lot of the medians, a lot of the graffiti's all coming off real fast. It's going to come down real fast. We're working with Clark Construction. They're one of the big ones. They're the biggest here by far, actually. And we're going to be not so much building, it's cleaning and fixing and redoing and putting brand new surfaces down on your roads and streets.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I'm sure that was a very subtle and not on purpose gesture by Donald Trump to not only visit the National Guard and the police force that he has brought to the streets of Washington, D.C., while bringing in martial law without, of course, conservatives calling it martial law. And that's about to spread, which I'll cover momentarily. But I'm sure giving them pizza was just another way to hint to QAnon that Trump was going to drain the swamp, right? Because all the stuff that we hear that they believe about the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs and all this stuff that we're supposed to believe the government fed us is real. Of course, Donald Trump continues to have an association with that, but they like to disregard that aspect of it. So there's a lot of tie-ins with Donald Trump, obviously giving the police pizza. But what we need to talk about is the propaganda and the messaging that's out there in regards to the National Guard and what's going on in D.C. Because the propaganda that they're starting to air is that crimes are down. There haven't been any murders in Washington, D.C. in the last week, thanks to the National Guard and the federal government taking control of the streets. Nobody's committing murder. Nobody's committing crime. Every crime you could imagine is down. And of course, the propaganda behind that is to say we need to implement this in more states. And of course, we have states like Maryland, states like Oregon, states like Washington that are all prepared to bring this into their states next to bring crime down. This is how problem, reaction, solution works, right? Again, we've heard about this for year after year after year. We've seen it on the news, which again is a simulation to convince you that these things are happening in the world, where they show you criminals running amok. These are obviously government operations where they're paying people to go. Those are government agents and actors paying people to go and loot stores so they can air it on the news and make you think that we need to do something about it. And then the government comes in finally with Donald Trump, who ironically is supposed to be the patriot who is anti-globalism and anti-New World Order, who is actually bringing in the New World Order. He's literally bringing in the AI governance, as I've discussed many times, and he's literally bringing in the National Guard, which is a police state under the control of the president and the federal government, to a state near you soon. And if you haven't heard, he's actually discussing Congress extending the federal takeover by DC police beyond the 30-day limit, because this is supposed to be something that's temporary. When the president calls on the National Guard to take over a city or a state, the National Guard can only stay there for 30 days. It can only be a military state for 30 days. So Trump is expanding that. He wants it to be longer because nobody's blinking. Nobody's paying attention that the military are walking the streets in D.C. Conservatives aren't screaming about martial law and the New World Order. What are they screaming about? Well, they're screaming about Cracker Barrel, of course, because this is what the news has become. You have a president who is doing every single thing to implement a new world order and a surveillance state. And you have the non-censored, controlled alt-right media talking about Cracker Barrel, because this is what I talk about when I say, while these things occur, they distract you with stuff. First, when Trump came in, he talked about bringing in AI governance. He talked about the Golden Dome. And in between those deals that he signed, those bills that he signed, those executive orders, he talked about how men and women would play their own sports. We would have women playing men's sports and men playing women's sports, and everybody was just cheering about that. So while this is occurring, while Trump is saying, you know what, we're going to keep the National Guard in D.C. longer than 30 days. In fact, we'll just keep extending this like they did with the COVID stuff and everything else. So just keep extending it until you get so desensitized. You're used to the police being controlled by the federal government and the National Guard being deployed in your town. It just becomes the new normal. You go out to your mailbox and a tank's driving by and you're just desensitized to it, because after 30 days, becomes 60 days, becomes 90 days, becomes 120 days, right? Just like the people who are still wearing masks out there. They became so desensitized. They wear it every day now. It's just become the new normal because they know how to train human beings to do what they want them to do. So, of course, while this stuff is happening, the alt-right media is talking about Cracker Barrel. If you haven't heard, the big deal is that Cracker Barrel, that's right, the restaurant Cracker Barrel that probably nobody eats at, is no longer going to use their logo. This is a big concern to the alt-right media. Look at all the views and look at all the alt-right media that gets promoted on YouTube, from Matt Walsh to some of these other guys, conservative twins, right? Cracker Barrel stock crashes after woke CEO backlash. Then you get these other guys, Michael Knowles, Benny Johnson. This is the content that they're feeding their audience, who is supposed to be anti-New World Order, who is supposed to be on alert about these things, who are supposed to be awake and aware, and they couldn't be more asleep. They're more asleep. The actual Democrats are now the ones who are screaming about privacy, Palantir, surveillance state. But these people are screaming about Cracker Barrel changing their logo, and that's all done by design. That's why I constantly talk about the controlled media, because these people are not paying attention to what Trump's actually doing, and they're getting this type of information, which is pointless, useless, and nobody should care about. Who gives a crap about Cracker Barrel and their logo? Maybe we should talk about what's in Cracker Barrel's food. Has anybody done an investigation? Because we know the majority of these big chains serve us human meat, so maybe we should look into that instead of being so upset about a logo because it doesn't seem American enough. It seems too woke, right? Well, does this seem American enough that Trump is talking about extending federal takeover of D.C. police beyond 30-day limit? Does it? Because to me, that's exactly what the New World Order is. Now, I'm going to play for you this propaganda piece because this is important to pay attention. This is what I try to cover in all the videos that I do, to pay attention to what the narrative is. Because if you're sleeping and you're watching the news and you're not in a conscious state of mind, this is how they program you, right? So they have the military deployed. Nobody's really paying attention to it. They haven't fought back and pushed back against it, so Trump could say we're going to extend it more than 30 days. And then they air this stuff to program your mind. And what do they program it with? Well, 0 homicides in 7 days, right? Carjackings down 83%. Robberies down 46%. Violent crime down 22%. Listen to this news clip as they talk about what needs to be done potentially in Maryland. Maryland now begging for the government to bring in the National Guard to clean up their streets. And of course, they'll give you opposing viewpoints and they'll show you people that look like they're probably on drugs, or you would identify as, oh, well, these people don't want the National Guard there. They're probably the criminals, right? As they continue to race bait people by putting people on the news that, you know, are going to look the part to make people out there say, yeah, look at the people talking on the streets. It looks like they need to bring the National Guard there. They show you broken down buildings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this will continue to spread because of propaganda like this. They're convincing people that to bring down the crime that they've created, they've allowed crime rates to go up by telling the police to stand down, by showing you this stuff on the news, most of which were actually carried out by the government, paying people off to rob stores, telling them they wouldn't get arrested, not arresting them for doing so. They did that by design so that they can do this and get the people out there to want this. And all the conservatives who were once anti a police state are now calling for the government, the federal government, to take control of these cities that are broken down because of Democrats, right? No, the Democrats and Republicans work together so they can bring this in. Look at this propaganda because it's going to be coming to a city near you soon.
Well, a growing number of National Guard troops are in Washington, D.C., and that number could nearly double in the coming days after 3 more Republican governors agree to send reinforcements at the request of the White House. Since August 7th, the White House says there have been 550 arrests in the district. The Metropolitan Police Department made 527 of those arrests. The U.S. Marshal Service showed 225 of the people arrested were alleged illegal immigrants. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. Let's go right to Fox 45's Jeff Abel and a look at whether the National Guard could help curb crime in Maryland.
But when the National Guard hit the ground in Washington last week, that city's crime fight went into overdrive. And now we're seeing the impact and the dramatic reductions in crime. When the National Guard rolled into Washington last week, the locals seemed skeptical.
The crime is minimal here. There's not really a lot of crime here. It looks like window dressing to me.
But with the Guard on the ground, crime is on the decline. For the first time in a long time, D.C. has gone 7 days without a homicide. And that's not all. Carjackings are down 83%. Robberies are down 46%. Car thefts down 21%. And overall violent crime is down 22%.
When you have these kind of numbers going down, it basically says this is a success, and that means people feel safer.
Like many big cities, Washington's police department is critically short-staffed.
People who don't feel safe aren't free.
Sergeant Betsy Smith with the National Police Association says it is ripe for federal help.
More police generally equals less crime.
And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone.
Last week, the president fell short of deploying the National Guard to the city of Baltimore, but says he hasn't ruled it out.
Should we bring in the National Guard? It's going to start war. Yeah, going to fight back, retaliation. You're going to have people doing, especially if they try to keep you in the house.
Should we call in the National Guard?
No, man, we need the National Treasurer.
We're not looking for more oppression. We're looking for solutions. That's not a solution.
What Baltimore City residents need to understand is they've been under federal control since 2017.
As part of a consent decree, the federal government already oversees Baltimore's police department. And with the department still hundreds of officers short, Sergeant Smith is convinced the city could see similar crime reductions if the city would embrace federal help.
If the people in Baltimore City want to truly be free from criminals, free from violence, they need to embrace not only their local law enforcement, but state and federal partners as well.
Without an act of Congress, the National Guard can only be on the ground in Washington for 30 days. However, the president says he plans to ask Congress for a long-term extension.
So you see how easy it is when you're paying attention to pick up what the messaging is here? Problem, reaction, solution. Make the cities look like rundown crack homes where they show you buildings with boarded windows. They show you people roaming the streets that don't look trustworthy. They show you people shooting up heroin on the streets. They show you people robbing Nordstrom. Everybody's seen it over and over and over again for years and years and years by design. So then they say, it's dangerous out there. It's scary out there. The cities look really dangerous. The Democrats have run the cities into the ground. Well, here's your solution, ladies and gentlemen. Well, when Donald Trump brings in the National Guard, crime suddenly goes down. Maybe what we need is an entire police state, entire military state. Let's bring in martial law, right? We have Governor Moore inviting President Trump to Maryland for public safety walk after the National Guard deployment in D.C. The states are screaming for this. And you might sit there and you might say, well, maybe it's a good thing. But if you're not paying attention to what they're actually doing here, they're bringing in the AI governance surveillance state. This is two things happening at once. You bring in the military to your cities, and then look at the other story that's out there that people need to pay attention to. ICE, again, remember we've heard all these stories about ICE. They're using Palantir to track immigrants' movements. They're this is illegal, using Immigration OS by Palantir. Now, everybody out there is cheering for this because they've convinced everybody out there that the illegals are committing all these crimes. They've made all white people hate illegals all of a sudden, right? Oh, they're dangerous. And people even comment here on the website sometimes about it, and they're not getting the point. Nobody's saying that illegals don't, that there's not a problem with illegal immigrants coming to this country. But it's the way that this is being presented to you. It's being presented to you so that you ask for the National Guard to come to your cities and so that you accept this right here, which is going to be used against you. Remember, they're bringing in Palantir's technology, which is Mossad technology, which is used in war. to use against civilians. So conservatives who would say this is a violation of privacy, this is a violation of human rights, that's what they would normally scream. But they're not screaming that because they're in the PSYOP and they're caring so much about deporting these people. So they're cheering for it. They're going, yeah, bring it in. But once this is in place, once Palantir is fully in place with the U.S. government, which it already is because it's an operation right out of the CIA and the Mossad, but once it's openly in place and everybody accepts it and there's no pushback, and it continues on, and we hear another year of ICE. Oh, they've gotten rid of all these illegals. Whoa, let's praise ICE. Let's have their stock go up to $1,000. Yes, Palantir is the best. ICE is great. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, maybe they'll tap Gavin Newsom on the shoulder and put Gavin Newsom in. And imagine Gavin Newsom as president with this type of technology implemented in America, where they could suddenly say, well, no longer are we going to use this technology against illegal immigrants. We're going to use it against conservatives. We're going to use it against Christians. We're going to use it against bigots. We're going to use it against conspiracy theorists. Then all of a sudden we have a problem. And that's why this is a massive problem. Palantir, again, Donald Trump tapped them on the shoulders the day he came into office. And again, that's not something that should surprise anybody. Palantir has been an operation of the CIA since their initiation, since Peter Thiel funded the thing, a decade or two ago, with Alex Karp being tapped on the shoulder to be the head man for it. So Palantir is extending to reach even further into the government. This is happening while everybody's talking about Cracker Barrel, okay? And don't forget, the World Economic Forum, who is preaching AI governance, has their own personal page for Palantir's technologies, okay? Because Palantir is going to be the big brother in all this. And it's a very scary thought if you understand what they're doing. So Trump's Palantir-powered surveillance is turning America into a digital prison. A digital prison. Meet the CIA-backed venture, Palantir, the spy tool that might be on your phone. And Palantir, again, long-standing relationship with the CIA, which was an early investor in the company through its venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel. And there's your Q for anyone out there, the CIA, In-Q-Tel, and their QAnon operation. Inside Palantir, the tech giant's powering government intelligence. Okay, so now you understand, right? I'm just getting this back into your head about Palantir because it's important to pay attention. Palantir is locked up with Trump. Trump is bringing in the National Guard. Palantir is an operation of Mossad. And when Trump starts changing the infrastructure, which is happening right now, the FBI, the Department of Defense, they are using Palantir technologies. Palantir technologies are being used against citizens, but they're telling you that it's only being used against illegal immigrants. But Palantir has been doing this for a long time with the CIA. They were testing in New Orleans. You might remember a couple years ago, Palantir has secretly been using New Orleans to test its predictive policing technology. Palantir has predictive policing technology, like I showed you in the previous video, when it comes to Minority Report. Gotham is the name of their predictive policing system. It integrates and analyzes large amounts of data to uncover patterns and identify individuals or areas that may be at high risk of criminal activity. Okay, now everybody out there who's a conservative is going to hear that, and a Christian go, well, it says, I'm not that, so what do I care? We're going to go after, the immigrant people and people who are, let out of prison too soon. They're going to monitor them, right? Well, when it's programmed that way, sure, but it's the purpose of this is for you to allow and accept this to be put in place so it gets turned against you. When the wording changes, as we've seen over the last 10 years, where you can't be a conspiracy theorist anymore, you can't talk about these topics anymore, and it's turned against Christians, and Christians are considered a threat. Christians who don't accept Israel, Christians who are anti-Zionism. Oh, suddenly we're looking at them as being real threats. Then all of a sudden, these Gotham, data programs are going to be surveilling you. And they already are. But people will be accepting of it. Oh, well, this is allowed in our society because we went after ICE. Okay, good. And then when they change the blueprint, and again, they could put in Newsom, they could put in any lib, anybody who's anti-Christian, pro-wokeism. That's the point of what they're doing right now, is to distract conservatives with all this woke stuff still, this baby stuff. This is like baby talk. Ooh, Cracker Barrel's logo. Oh, well, Trump has the National Guard deployed and is working with Palantir, who is directly out of Mossad and working in pre-crime. We're talking pre-crime technology here, right? Arresting people who have not committed a crime. Arresting people based on what? What they search on the internet. Arresting people based on, well, these people have a lot of guns stockpiled, like the people in Waco. Let's arrest them. Ooh, these people have a lot of survival food. They seem like they're a little off. Maybe they have mental health problems. Let's arrest them and confiscate their survival food because we've given all the information to Palantir. so that they could figure out, well, these people have been buying Survive, stocking up for years. They're stocking up on ammo. These are threats. They don't sound very American to us. And that's what this is leading towards. And they're allowing this to occur because they think that this is a nationalist white movement, whatever this propaganda is that they've fallen for, that Donald Trump is bringing. It's incredible. It's almost like they're blinding themselves from what's going on here. It's like they don't want to believe it. And that's the truth of the matter, because most of these people are narcissists. They don't want to just say, oh, it's wrong. I mean, Trump is one of them. Who cares if you were wrong or right? It needs to be stopped before it goes too far. And it seems like it's not going to be stopped because people are just talking about nonsense still to this day. Oh, Cracker Barrel. This is a hot talking point, folks. Millions of views across all these platforms. Every single influencer in the alt-right movement talking about Cracker Barrel. Are any of them talking about what's going on with the National Guard? I've heard some of them, they go, well, the National Guard is not martial law. Oh, no. Oh, no. The National Guard is often involved when martial law is declared. In fact, they're the first line of defense when martial law is actually called upon by the states. Governors deploy the National Guard in response to domestic crises and natural disasters or civil unrest. That's who's called upon. Now, did anybody see any type of natural disaster or civil unrest in D.C.? No, you were just told on the television that crime was running amok, right? And they sent them there, and then you just hear the results. Oh, well, there's no crime anymore. Really? Well, we want that too. Bring it to our city, even though the same people who are bringing it are the ones responsible for creating it, right? But let's talk about Cracker Barrel. Let's talk about the LGBTQ+. Let's talk about nonsense. And then the next thing you know, all this stuff is in place. Palantir is becoming a household name now. And that's another thing I'm concerned about. If you haven't heard with Palantir, their stock is becoming like one of the biggest stocks on Wall Street. And they're doing that deliberately, not because they need the money, because they're funded by our tax money. They're funded, the CIA is, and the Mossad is Palantir. They're doing it because they want to make it a household name. Like Apple is a household name. Ooh, I trust Apple. Ooh, I trust Amazon. They want Palantir to have this trusted name, like, oh, Palantir. Oh, I like them. Ooh, their stock's trading hard. Ooh, they sound trustworthy. Ooh, this technology is helping get rid of all the illegal immigrants. Ooh, this big brother. Okay, the surveillance. Ooh, there could be trust. And then, of course, it'll get twisted against everybody. Nobody thinks about the future and what could occur, right? Oh, well, what if this technology is in place and Donald Trump's no longer president? Well, that's exactly what's going to occur. This technology is going to be in place, and then they can put the craziest woke person in power. And then they go, well, we're going to use the Palantir technology now and the surveillance technology against white nationalists and against white people and against Christians and against conservatives and against conspiracy theory. No, nobody's thinking about that, right? They're thinking about Cracker Barrel. So this is coming. This National Guard thing is going to continue to go on because there's been zero pushback. You haven't heard anybody complain about it, and all you've heard from the propaganda is how it's actually working, right? You've heard, oh, the crime is down, this is down, and now Trump is extending it. He's trying to extend it beyond 30 days. Well, of course they're going to extend it. And they're going to extend it to 90, and they're going to go, the pilot in D.C. worked. Let's try to California, right? Oh, and what's going to happen in Cal? Oh, the crime's going to go down in Cal. And they're going to continue it because there's no pushback from the people. They're complying to it. And when the people comply, and compliance is silence, really, at this point. So when people are silent and they don't push back and nobody's talking about it, nobody's doing anything about it, because they're monitoring the data online, then they go forward with it. And remember, what Palantir does is they gather all the data on us, every text message, every conversation on a phone. They have all of this on us, and that's what these data centers are getting built out for this pre-predictive policing. Really, pre-crime is what it is. Those data centers are going to be literally every single thing we've ever done online or on a cell phone, everything. So then they're going to build out profiles on us and then decide, well, who's a criminal, who's not. They already know. We're all on lists, I'm sure, already. We know I'm on one, right? Think I'm making it up? I went over to Grok. That's the AI tool that Elon Musk has deployed to get conservatives on board with artificial intelligence, right? And I'm sure I've seen some of you guys use that. So you ask ChatGPT stuff about the mark of the beast. What is it saying? People conversate with these demons. Well, I typed in, what happened to a call for an uprising's YouTube channel? Well, this is what it said. So somehow I'm in the database, call for an uprising, right? That this thing knows all about me or all about the channel, which has been gone since 2023, as it'll tell you. The YouTube channel Call for an Uprising was banned by YouTube in March 2023 after operating for 7 years. The channel, which had over 500,000 subscribers and millions of views, was known for promoting conspiracy theories, including claims about the 2023 Turkey earthquake being a U.S. operation via HARP, which, by the way, I said that they took my channel down for that purpose, and there you go. Planned train derailments and other narratives involving anti-Semitism, transphobia, and Christian extremism. See, Christian extremism. Do I sound extreme? Am I calling for violence or anything? Nope. Despite the popularity, the channel faced criticism for spreading harmful content, which likely led to its removal due to violations of YouTube's content moderation policy. The creator has since moved to alternative platforms like Rumble and BitChute, where they continue to post similar content. Now, I'm obviously not on BitChute. I have a channel on Rumble. It is atrocious. Nobody is over there. Platform sucks. But here's this one other one. When you type in a call for an uprising, I'm showing you this because I'm showing you this is the type of data they have. I'm anonymous, and they have this type of data on me. So just imagine anything else. You put your real information, your real name in anywhere. Well, listen, YouTube channel call for an uprising no longer active on YouTube, having been banned in March 2023 after years of spreading conspiratorial content, including anti-Semitic and transphobic narratives with over 500,000 subs at its peak. However, the associated website of Call for an Uprising still exists, offering forums, videos, live chats, and podcasts for a paid membership, focusing on discussions about current events and conspiracy-related content. Content from A Call for an Uprising also persists on other platforms like BitChute, Rumble, and SoundCloud, where archived materials or related content is still accessible. There's no indication of new activity under the same branding on major platforms, but the creator may be operating under different names, as suggested by a 2022 Reddit discussion mentioning alternative channels like Nations Conspire and Ones That Can See. I mean, this isn't a Grok, AI, ask it a question. Then it has all this information. I asked it another one. And it even said in there, it had over 80 channels deleted off the platform. I mean, what? Huh? So it's listening. In other words, like how many times have I mentioned in the video, oh, it's my 80th channel, 85th channel. But on those channels, it's not even listed under A Call for an Uprising, right? It would be Nations Conspire. I'm like, I'm on 80th channel. And it's got that information as well. So they're just gathering all this information on all of us. And it's going into the data centers. And Trump is building the data centers. And he's bringing Palantir in with the government. And he's bringing in the National Guard. And you don't hear any of these people saying boo about it. It's frightening. It is frightening because there's really no escape other than getting off the technology. But like I said, you know what's going to happen when you try to go off grid. They're going to tell everybody out there that all they have to do is put one news story out there and say you're an extremist, you're off grid, you're into conspiracy theories, you admire David Koresh and Waco. They make up whatever they want and put it on the news. And then these people go, oh my gosh, they don't know you. This guy wants to be like David Koresh. He's a call for everybody. He wants to be like David Koresh. He's got 100 of his subscribers down on a ranch somewhere, and they're all just living off grid, farming, not doing anything, and they have guns. Oh, right. Next thing you know, you wake up and you're on fire. Right? That's how this game works. It's a sick, twisted game. And it's really sad state of affairs that the Christian conservatives have fallen this easily for this stuff. But I guess, this is prophecy, right? We know that there's a falling away. We know there's great deceptions. I mean, I just didn't know people were this stupid. But obviously, when they're getting information overload and stuff, they just want to be entertained by stories like Cracker Barrel and use all their emotion and their energy on that, yelling and screaming about freaking Cracker Barrel. Well, we got the National Guard getting spread to more states, and we got Palantir getting the government, openly telling all of us that the government contracts with Palantir are spreading into every branch of the government from Donald Trump, and nobody's going, whoa, surveillance state, anyone? Yeah, sounds like a great time to be alive, right? I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.